So I just realized it's been 11 years since I moved from the US to Japan. Uh, yeah, time flies. And in those 11 years, I have done a lot of different things for work. My career has gone in a couple different directions that I would not have expected. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So I just want to take some time to talk about how I got here, how I moved to Japan and got my first job, what happened after that, and the new career path I ended up on, and how I'm doing right now. So, if you're thinking of moving to Japan for any reason in the future, or if you're already here and just want to hear somebody else's perspective, hopefully this will be somewhat interesting to you. Yeah, so I was born and raised in the US, went to university in the US. I studied Japanese and also education because I was interested in being a teacher at the time. Spoiler alert, I am not a teacher right now. But yeah, that's what I was thinking at the time. And like many people interested in Japan, I heard about the JET program. I applied for that because it seemed like a pretty good way to get into the country and get my first job. And yeah, it turned out it was all of those things. The weird thing here is that I actually, because I wanted to be a teacher, the ALT position would have made more sense for me. But at the same time, the CIR position was kind of interesting because, it was like, rather than being in a school, you can work in like an office environment, working fully in Japanese. And I'm not going to say that sounded more fun, but it sounded like a more rare opportunity. So I applied for that instead. And there was like a little checkbox on the application that was like, oh, if my Japanese is not good enough for CIR, or if there's not enough positions available, make me an ALT instead. So I checked that box, of course, and I got the CIR job. Whoops. But yeah, moved to Japan in 2015 in the summer. Did orientation in Tokyo for a few days, and then flew out to my placement, which was in Izumo in Shimane Prefecture, which is pretty rural, pretty countryside. A lot of my friends were like, oh, where the hell's that? But yeah, figured it was a chance to go somewhere I wouldn't have gone otherwise. So I was a CIR in Izumo for 3 years, and that job was pretty much what I expected, I guess. It pretty much matched like what I heard from previous JET participants. It's like you spend most of your days in the office doing a lot of translation work, sometimes interpreting if you have like guests coming over from abroad for any reason. A couple times a week I would go out to like schools or like libraries or like community events, I guess, and kind of give not really lessons, but more like presentations, talks about American culture, and just try to give people in the community a bit more exposure to, like, I don't know, things outside of Japan. And that was a pretty fun part of the job, I think. I'm not going to say I really enjoyed being in the office, doing translation work all the time, but getting out, communicating with people, many of whom were genuinely curious about my background. That was fun. It was satisfying. I think the job was a very good way to kind of like ease myself into working in Japan because, like, of course I have responsibilities and stuff, but it's not super strict. I didn't have like a ton of like really intense projects to do. It was fairly laid back for the most part. I think this is pretty common for CIRs. Obviously it varies a lot. Some people get really difficult placements, maybe even with difficult people. Some people have literally nothing to do all the time. I think I was somewhere in between, so yeah, I think I'm fortunate for that. I did end up getting really bored of the job, though, from the second year onwards, because there wasn't really anything new to do. It's like during the first year, everything I did was I was doing it for the first time, and like there was a lot to learn. the second year and third year just felt like repeats of the first year. So it did start to get a bit boring. So I decided to leave after the third year. Actually, I had to leave after the third year because my contracting organization had a rule where CIRs can only stay for 3 years. For some places it's 5 years, but for me it was 3 years. So yeah, the decision was made for me. And then I started job hunting. This part can be pretty stressful for jets, both for ALTs and CIRs alike. Yeah, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do after jet because I had some, experience now with translation and general office work and whatever. A bit of experience with public speaking and just going out and interacting with people. And I still kind of wanted to try being a teacher as well, since that was something I was always interested in. But yeah, I just applied for every job I figured I'd be somewhat qualified for. So it was a combination of translation and interpretation jobs, some teaching jobs, and even a couple of hospitality jobs at hotels and touristy places. I think I must have applied for over 30 companies maybe. Now this was back in 2018, so I don't know if that was normal for the time or not. Maybe nowadays with the job market being a bit harder, maybe it's on the lesser side of things. But yeah, the job I ended up getting was at a company called Mercari, a pretty big company now. At the time it was kind of in a growth phase where it was transitioning from being a young startup into a big company. So my timing was very good. It is a very competitive company, but yeah, I think I was in the right place at the right time. They were really desperate for translators and interpreters because they were building international teams, hiring a lot of people, especially engineers from other countries, and they ended up with a company where employees have trouble communicating with each other because of language barriers. So I was brought in to do a lot of internal translating and interpreting at meetings and stuff, and yeah, that was quite lucky, I would say. And I did that for about 2 years. It was kind of the opposite of the first job being a CR. It was Mercari was very, very intense, very fast paced, super busy from morning till evening. I didn't have to, nobody told me to, but I did a lot of overtime, just translating as many documents as I possibly could. One, because I kind of wanted to just make a good impression, improve myself, and two, I really wanted to get better at translating because it was a lot harder here than it was before, and there was a lot more technical engineering software vocabulary to learn. So I figured I should put in some extra effort to learn those things and do my job better. But yeah, I'm making a long story very short right now, but fast forward 2 years, after meeting a lot of people in the company, working with a lot of different teams and building relationships, I got an offer to switch teams and do more of a project management based role, helping engineer teams coordinate, big development projects and stuff. So that was very new to me, but of course I accepted because it seemed like a really good opportunity. And that opportunity would not have come if I had not worked my ass off as a translator for the first 2 years. So I don't regret the hours I put in, I guess. Although I wouldn't recommend to everybody that you bust your ass at work because yeah, it does take a toll. And coincidentally, during this time when I was a project manager, I was also attending a coding boot camp after work. The boot camp was run by Lewagon, probably the biggest boot camp in Japan right now. And I took this because during the first 2 years of working with so many different engineering teams, I kind of started to become interested in software. I have no background with software. I never considered myself good with technology, but watching, software teams build some really cool stuff and shipping it and having millions of users across the country use their work was pretty cool. So I was like, maybe I should learn how to code and, I don't know, see where I can take my career after this. So yeah, that's what prompted me to start the bootcamp. And again, fast forward a couple months, the bootcamp was really fun. It was hard, intense, and I think I pulled out a lot of my hair during that time because some of the work was so hard, but it was exciting and I learned a lot, and I was like, okay, I think software is pretty fun. Yeah, like being a developer is something I can see myself doing. So once again, within Mercari, I decided to request a transfer to an engineering team, which is possible. Several other people before me had done it. They had transitioned from non-technical jobs to engineering roles. There is like a system for it, but it is hard. I think there was like 2 requirements mainly. One is, of course, you need to have the skills. They're not gonna just let anybody become an engineer. But if you know how to actually code and build stuff and you can prove it, then they will let you switch. The other part is you need to have a specific team in mind that you want to join. They weren't just gonna go and find an open position for me. I had to go kind of do the networking, I guess, myself, find a team that had some headcount for a junior level engineer and see if they were interested in working with me. And fortunately, because I had already been in the company for a couple years and I knew a lot of people who were engineers, I just asked around and I found someone who said, yeah, I'm the tech lead of this team and I'm interested in working with you. So I just communicated with HR and with my managers about this, and they got the ball rolling. Yeah, now the really hard part was to become an engineer in the company, I had to go through the interview process from start to finish, like the same interviews they give to people applying from outside the company for engineering jobs. So I had like a technical test, which was like a leak code kind of thing, like solve an algorithm problem, explain it, blah, blah, blah. And then there was like 3 or 4 more interviews after that, just testing my technical knowledge and my culture fit, I guess, with the team. And I even had like a take-home assignment. It wasn't huge, but it was like, use our language, Go, and build a functional API with a database, make it return this kind of data, blah, blah, blah. So I did that as well. Had to learn Go, a new language for me, from scratch to do that. And yeah, the whole process took several months. It was quite painful because I had to study for the technical interview too. I was not good at doing like algorithms and leak code stuff, but that somehow worked out. And I ended up becoming an engineer at Mercari, which was pretty awesome. In my mind, it was a position with a bit of prestige, I guess, because, big company, software engineer. What could make my parents happier than this? So I worked as an engineer for about 2.5 years. And yeah, I'm really condensing this story a lot, but like towards the end of those 2.5 years, I was kind of like, okay, being an engineer at a big company is, it's all right, like a stable job, pays the bills, but I don't know if this is what I really want to be doing long term. I think I need to try something else. There's still more things out there that I want to try. So I left the company, and maybe this was good timing because this was in like 2024, shortly after like the end of the COVID era. I was working fully remotely at the time, and I actually moved from Tokyo to Kyoto because I like living here more. Yeah, around 2024, the company started to kind of switch to a more hybrid position, and they wanted people to be back in the office a couple times a week. Me living in Kyoto, commuting to the office would be pretty hard. Like, it's not impossible, but like going twice or 3 times a week would take a bit of a toll. So maybe it's good timing that I left anyways. Yeah, and after that, I kind of entered a weird phase of like exploration. Thankfully, at this time, I had my permanent residency, so I didn't have to worry about my visa or getting deported or whatever. And I also had like enough savings to get by for a couple of months. I wasn't gonna starve or be homeless or anything. So yeah, I ended up just working every kind of job that I was interested in. So like I did a bit of like freelance work, like a bit of freelance translation, a little bit of game localization, which is pretty cool. I didn't do a lot of it though. Did some freelance writing, wrote some articles for some clients like Tokyo Dev and Japan Dev, both really good resources, by the way, if you're an engineer. And then I even worked part-time at the Nintendo Museum that opened up in Kyoto in October of that year, I forgot. Yeah, maybe I'll make another video talking about what that was like. And then after that, I did a bit of teaching work in the end. There was like an after school and Saturday school program for like English speaking kids in Kyoto. So I helped out with some of like the English lessons, and there were also some like coding lessons where we taught them how to make mini projects and games, usually with like Scratch and like more like stuff focused for young learners. But yeah, I finally got to experience being in a classroom and working with real students, so that was pretty cool. And after that, I started working at a hostel run by some of my friends, and did a lot of like hospitality stuff that I was kind of interested in. They also had like a cafe on the first floor, so I did a bit of like food prep, food service. So yeah, for like over a year, I think I just kind of did this combination of like part-time work in person in Kyoto and some freelance work on the side. And then after that, I was like, okay, I was kind of satisfied. I was like, okay, I tried a bunch of different things. These are all interesting jobs, but the income wasn't enough for me to live on, so I decided to just go back to full-time work. And another thing I had always been interested in was working at a university, not necessarily as like a professor, but as like, admin staff, like student advisor kind of thing. And the reason for that is because when I was a student, more than 10 years ago, I had a lot of help from the staff at my university. Like I did a lot of things, like I studied abroad, I switched my major like a bunch of times, and I needed a lot of support from the staff, and like maybe I got lucky, but like they were all super helpful for me. I don't think I would have graduated without their help. So yeah, I had always thought it'd be cool to work at a university and help some students figure out their lives and their careers and stuff. And luckily I did find a job at a university called KUAS. It's kind of like a pretty new like private university in Japan. I'm not going to go into all the details about it because it's that university alone has a long story, but they were hiring full-time staff. The pay and conditions were better than I expected, and I was like, okay, why not? Let's apply for this and see what I can do. And I did get that job, thankfully, and I worked there for 7 months. Not a super long time, but basically after going back to full-time work with a rigid schedule, I kind of realized I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I know I probably sound really privileged right now, but like I really just could not deal with like being in the same place every single day. And having experienced like my previous work, I think I had a better idea of what was a good fit for me and what was not a good fit for me. So even though I liked the people I worked with at the university and I liked the students, I decided it would be better for me to leave and figure something else out. So now I'm kind of back to where I was before. I'm working another part-time job like 3 times a week, doing freelance work on the side, and just trying to see what other personal projects I can spin up in the meantime. One thing I'm doing is building a Japanese learning app as a solo developer. I'll talk about that more in a different video if you're interested. But yeah, so yeah, that's where I am at right now. So yeah, I'm not like making like a stable high income right now or saving much at all, but I am once again in like a bit of an experimental phase where I'm just trying to like use all the skills I've learned in the past 10-11 years and see what I can do with it. Maybe it would have been smart of me to like just specialize in something from the beginning, get really good at that, and then just get paid to do that for many years. But I went in a different direction where I just switched roles every couple years and became more of a generalist. So yeah, I mean, I speak Japanese and English. I have skills doing language related work, translation, a bit of education. and software engineering. So just gonna see what I can do by combining all of those. But yeah, in the meantime, I'll also be like sharing just like my ramblings and stories from my 10 years in Japan. So if you're interested, hope you'll come back to hear more from me. Yeah, and if there's anything you want to like hear from me in particular, if you have any questions, feel free to comment or DM me, and I'll see if I can share anything that might be helpful. Yeah, I think that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in, and see you later.